Hello everyone, my name is Olivia and I am a professional yearner. I love yearning in cinema, in music, in television, and in books. And I previously posted a video about yearning in cinema and suggested the idea of doing the same for yearning in literature, and a lot of people were on board for the idea. So I'm going to recommend a ton of books that I think have yearning in different ways, and I wanted to explore the different ways that people and fictional characters can yearn and how these are all prevalent in all the books that I have to show you today. The first book that I have to recommend that features yearning is a book that I recently finished, and it's called Thirst. This is an Argentinian sapphic vampire novel following a woman and a vampire as they both face this overwhelming loneliness in very different ways and how they eventually connect over their shared yearning for company. Thirst is a beautifully written novel. It's very atmospheric. It's a very introspective read, which I think is key for a novel about yearning, because when you are yearning, you're not necessarily sharing those feelings with other people. Sometimes you are simply yearning for something more deep within you. So you're really in their heads, you're feeling their desire and their longing for companionship, for understanding, and you get to witness this vampire's life over centuries. And I think the way that this story unfolded was so interesting because time moved so fluidly, as it does for a vampire. Time moves so much quicker for them because they live such long lives compared to ours, and you get to explore how she processes life differently from this human. But at the core of it all, they both have this shared loneliness that they're trying to fill, and it was so beautifully written. And it's definitely not for everyone because it is a very slow moving novel. It's primarily a character study of these two women's lives, and if you like a quiet novel that doesn't really have a lot going on but is just so beautifully written, this is the book for you. The next book is a book full of yearning, but it is very, very toxic, and it is Cursed Bread. I feel like I'm the unpaid marketing director for Cursed Bread because when I read this book, I could not get enough of it. It didn't leave my mind, and I cannot stop recommending it. Cursed Bread is based on a true story about this French village in the 1950s that was overcome with this mass hysteria that people believed was caused by the cursed bread in their village. So we follow the baker's wife, who is a very ordinary woman, and she just wants so much more out of life. She wants recognition, she wants to feel unique, and she eventually comes across this new neighbor called Violet, who is married to this hotshot ambassador, and she is everything that Elodie isn't. Elodie looks at Violet and not only wants to be her, but also wants to be with her. And this toxic yearning that takes place over the course of this novel is absolutely delicious, pun intended. Cursed Bread is not only a very introspective read similar to that of Thirst, you really live in Elodie's head. You get to witness somewhat of a character corruption arc in this novel because she lives a very normal life at the beginning, and this obsession that she eventually has over Violet really turns toxic and sour in her mouth, and you get to witness that through the narrative. And the way that this story unfolds is so entertaining. Like, the moment you start this novel, you won't be able to put it down because you want to know what's going to happen next. You feel this sense of urgency in this novel, and you're waiting for the pot to eventually overflow because you feel it boiling beneath you, and you just cannot get enough of it. Another book for people who yearn is A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. This is a book that I think is very much underrated because I don't see anyone else talking about this. This is a book reminiscent of The Great Gatsby, which is also a great book for people who yearn, about Lou, who gets wrapped up in the world of the Cardew siblings, who live a world of glitz and glamour, and she's just a very ordinary teenager who just wants everything in life. And when she's handed that by the Cardew siblings, she falls into this world that is so beautiful and so opulent, but also lurking with secrets, because both of these siblings who take her under her wing have a lot of secrets to hide. So not only do you get this sense of yearning because you are introduced to this beautiful world that you are impressed by even as a reader, but you also are in this world where there's a lot hiding beneath the surface and you're wondering what's going to happen and what's going to be revealed. This novel is such a beautifully written YA novel. It really took me by surprise. It is a stunning historical fiction without feeling too much like a historical fiction, because I know a lot of people aren't fans of it, but I do highly recommend this if you're looking for a novel that gives you the same vibes as The Great Gatsby, because this is very underrated, very beautifully written, and definitely worth your time. Next, I have a book about characters yearning for love and recognition, and it is Normal People. Normal People, I know everyone talks about on BookTube and TikTok and Instagram, but I recently read it this year and fell completely in love with it. I finally gave it a shot and it completely blew me away. Sally Rooney really knows how to capture the loneliness of your 20s and also the messiness of your 20s, and how people in their 20s are also yearning for so many different things in life. Throughout this novel, you get to explore the fact that these two characters rely heavily on each other because they feel like outsiders in their friend groups, in their college, in their jobs, and you get to see them reconnect over and over again because at the end of the day, they truly only ever feel held by each other. And I love the way that Sally Rooney explores that in Normal People. There's so many different aspects of Normal People that you can break down because these characters are so complex and there's so much going on in their lives, but I'm primarily focusing on the relationship between Marian and Connell. It's not necessarily the healthiest relationships. I do think they form a bit of a codependency between each other that kind of sabotages each other's lives in a way because they don't treat each other the best way that other people should be treated. And I think that's so important to explore in a novel because being in your 20s is very messy. You're not going to make the perfect choices every single time. You're not going to date the most perfect people every single time. And this explores that in Normal People. And it also explores that sense of longing for understanding because these characters feel so alone in life and they feel like they can't truly connect with others, and they become each other's kind of safe space because whenever their lives fall apart, they find each other again. And I love the way that yearning is explored in Normal People because there are so many different things that they yearn for. Sense of longing changes throughout the years as they grow older and they mature. But at the end of the day, it's always Marian and Connell. They're always longing for each other, and that might not necessarily be a good thing. The next book that I have to recommend are the Letters of Vincent van Gogh, which are comprised of his letters to his brother Theo, and these letters are some of the prettiest things that I've ever read in my life. This entire collection is one of my favorite things that I've ever read. I didn't know a lot about Vincent van Gogh before reading this collection, and I decided to pick it up on a whim because I've seen a couple of his quotes on Tumblr, and I thought the way that he wrote was so beautiful, and I wanted to learn more about him. So I decided to pick up this collection and fell completely in love with Vincent van Gogh and felt as though I understood him finally in a way that I can never truly express in words because his letters are so personal. His letters are so full of yearning. He wants recognition. He wants his paintings to sustain him as an artist. He's really passionate about the work that he does. And I wanted to read you a quote from Vincent to his brother Theo. And he talks a lot about his place as an artist in the world and the impression he wants to leave on the world as an artist. And he says, "Though I am often in the depths of misery, there is still calmness, pure harmony and music inside me. I see paintings and drawings in the poorest cottages, in the darkest corners, and my mind is driven towards these things with an irresistible momentum." Vincent van Gogh sees the world in a different way from others. He sees a simple cottage and sees a beautiful painting. He sees a field and sees a beautiful landscape that he can paint. And the way that he viewed the world and the way that he viewed himself and explored himself through his letters to his brother was absolutely beautiful. And you feel this sense of yearning in all of his letters because he just wants to make an impression on the world and he never truly thought he could. And reading this book today, you know Vincent van Gogh became a famous artist, one of the most famous artists in the world, and you read his letters and you just want to assure him that he's going to be okay. He's going to be in the most elite museums of all time, but reading these letters, you feel this longing for recognition and this longing for happiness and his true place in the world. It feels kind of similar to Normal People because Normal People, we have Marian and Connell who don't really know their place in the world and they just want to feel steady. They just want to feel secure. And Vincent van Gogh also feels very shaky. He feels like he doesn't really know his place in the world. And I think that's also an important part of yearning. You don't know what you really want out of life, and you just want something more that's just out of your reach, and you might not be able to grasp it because you don't really know what it is yet. And that is explored a lot in his letters, and you get to really see him grow as a person and as an artist throughout the course of the letters, because they're kind of in chronological order, and it's just absolutely fantastic. If you want to learn more about our history, if you want to learn more about Vincent van Gogh, these letters are absolutely beautiful. He's one of the most talented writers that I've had the pleasure of reading from, and he's not even a professional writer. He's simply just writing letters to his brother. Speaking of being a writer, longing for recognition, the next book that I have to recommend is Writers and Lovers by Lily King. This is another novel where the main character doesn't have her life together, and she's going through various situations in her life that help her grow as a person, but are very messy in a way that's similar to normal people. This is the type of novel that people were calling hot girl books, where it follows a main character who doesn't have her life together, and it explores not only grief, but also the love for writing and creativity and literature. This is a great read for people who love a book that's a little bit sad, but also doesn't necessarily bring you down. It's a very cozy type of read that I think is perfect for the autumn time. And again, if you're a writer or if you're a budding writer and you want to read something a little bit relatable about honing in on your craft and trying to break into the writing world, this is the book for you. The next book that I have to recommend is Open Water, which I call cinematic yearning. This is about two Black artists who are falling in love in London, and the way that this story unfolds feels perfect for a film. And the way that their conversations flow feels cinematic, and it feels like you're watching a movie in your mind. And I also loved the fact that it was told in second person, which I thought was really unique. And it's also just a lyrical, somewhat melancholic story about these two artists just searching for love and searching for a place in this world. And that's truly the thesis statement for all of these novels. All these characters just want to find their place in this world, whether it be with someone else, with a career, with themselves. They all just want a sense of belonging. And another novel that I have to recommend that is the perfect novel for people who yearn is Happy Place. This novel consumed my heart one summer and really took me by surprise because I did not expect to love it as much as I did. But this novel is a second chance romance between these two characters who were previously engaged but broke off their engagement and aren't telling their friends during their annual friendship vacation that they take together because they don't want to bring the vibes down. But throughout all of this, you get to see them actually start to fall in love with each other once again, and we flash back to their previous relationship and who they once were as a couple, and we flash forward to the present where they're broken up, and you get to see the juxtaposition between the positions that they were in as a couple. And the way that this story unfolds is beautiful. It explores so many different aspects of being an adult and this transitional time in your life when you and your friends are growing farther apart, you have your own separate lives, you don't really see each other as much anymore. But primarily it's this second chance romance that really consumed me and left me wanting to read this as quick as possible because I wanted to know if they were going to end up together. And I just love the way that Emily Henry wrote this book. I thought her writing was beautiful, it was really relatable and just so lovely, and I just could not stop reading this book, and oh, it was amazing. Another book that explores yearning for the past is The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. This book also consumed my heart and soul, and I just could not get enough of it. This book really left an impression on me. I listened to it on audiobook, loved it so much that I wanted to get myself a copy because I can most definitely see myself rereading this in the future because the writing, again, was so beautiful. The story was so impactful, and it was so good. This is a story between Roya and Bahman who meet in Iran, and they fall in love in a stationery shop, which is kind of their hidden paradise from society. And there they are able to talk about the political landscape of their country and also their shared love for Rumi. And they fall in love in a beautiful, innocent way in the stationery shop and are eventually said to meet at it once again when Bahman never shows. And Roya eventually leaves Iran to go to college in America, and their lives are eventually separated. But in the future, as adults, they are able to meet once again, so Roya is able to ask Bahman why he never showed up to the stationery shop and why their lives changed forever because of that one single action. This story will destroy you. It will leave an impression on you that will make you think about this book for months after you finish it. I could not get enough of this book. It was so heartbreaking and so much happened in such a short amount of time that left you completely distraught over these characters because it's a case of right person, wrong time, and that completely haunts me and is one of my favorite tropes in novels. So if you do have recommendations for other novels that's about the right person, the wrong time, please recommend them down below because this really explores that. And the yearning in this novel is top tier. It will crush you. Another book that has yearning for so many different things that I can't even pinpoint specific topics because there are so many different characters in this novel is Little Women. Little Women is for the people who yearn, whether you want to be a writer, an artist, a mother, or just have your family together. This book is full of longing, and it follows 4 different sisters and their lives as they grow up and grow older together, and it follows them as they pursue their different dreams and how they have to work together as a family to get over the different situations that prop up throughout their lives that really test them and test their love for one another. And this book is so beautiful. The movies are also beautiful. I've seen every single Little Women movie, so I can say the movies are all beautiful, and the way that we explore yearning in this novel is so relatable because it is written by a young woman, Louisa May Alcott. She understood the feelings of yearning. She understood what it was like to want something more out of your life. And the way that she bottled up that feeling and put it into her novel is absolutely beautiful. I primarily relate the most to Jo and Amy. I think I have the tendencies of Jo when it comes to romantic relationships, but the tendencies of Amy when it comes to wanting to leave an impression on the world. It's very atmospheric, and don't let this book size kind of intimidate you. Apparently I have the edition that just has a ton of pages. People tell me their editions are much smaller, so don't look at this novel and be like, wait, this is a really big book, I don't want to read it. It is a smaller book. I just happen to have a really tiny version of it. But again, this book is beautiful. It left an impression on me. I love the movies. I love Amy. I love Jo. I love all the characters. They're all so wonderful. And this is a great classic novel that doesn't necessarily feel like a classic novel. I think it's very accessible to dive into and to understand the story. And I feel like it's a very comfortable prose to run along with. And the last book that I have to recommend explores yearning for peace, and it is Bella Figura by Kamen Mohammadi. This is one of my favorite nonfictions that I've ever read, and I cannot stop recommending it, and I won't stop recommending it because I do think this is a beautiful memoir that a lot more people should pick up. This follows Kamen, who went to Italy for a year, and she chronicles her life by every single month that she spent in Italy and the lessons that she learned during each month that she spent in this country. This memoir is so beautiful to read in the summer. It makes you want to live your life to the fullest. It makes you want to slow down, stop looking at your phone, really enjoy your life and make the most of it. And this book just really shifted a mindset in my life. It made me feel more patient. It made me want to slow down and not be as fast paced. It made me want to get rid of that hustle culture that people have created in America and just enjoy the life that you have to live. And Bella Figura is one of the most accessible memoirs that I've read. It felt so effortless to read and to fall into, and I loved the way that Kamen described her life in Italy. I think I read it at the perfect time in my life to really make an impression, and I cannot stop thinking about it, and I have not stopped recommending it since. So those are all the books that I have to recommend for people who yearn. All of these characters and all these authors yearn in different ways, and I love the way that you can explore yearning and longing in so many different capacities. So if you have any books to recommend that have similar vibes that also deal with yearning, whether it be yearning for love, for company, for a better life, recommend them down below because I would love to take your recommendations into account. If you have not followed me anywhere else on social media, be sure to follow me here on Instagram and on TikTok. All my links will be down below. And if you stayed this far in the video, leave a brown heart emoji to match my dress. If you stayed this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!